Hello, darlings. Welcome to Marriage Matters. I'm your host, Musette Lavelle. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do me a favor, click that like button, subscribe, and share our video. Next, we have two guests coming up that I'm sure you're going to want to hear from. Thank you for tuning in. Joining us today are Byrds Byrd and Regina Arrington Byrd, who have been married since September 29th of 2018. So they're pretty much kind of like newlyweds still. And they are going to be discussing with us the matter of blended families. So Byrds and Regina, thank you for coming. I appreciate you guys for being here. Tell us the story about how you met.
Well, we met officially. We met Plenty of Fish online.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I met her on Plenty of Fish. I'd been dating and wasn't satisfied with people I was dating at the time. And a friend of mine had told me to go on Plenty of Fish. I went on Plenty of Fish. I had never done that before.
Was this a good friend?
A good friend, yes, I pretty much can count on.
But sometimes the friends tell us to do stuff and we just be like,
he was one of the type of guys that he's gonna tell you the truth whether you like it or not.
okay, good.
And he had seen me in a bad place. He seen me in a bad place and he just told me just somebody out there for you. And so I was online, sent her a text, I seen her picture. I'd seen her before when I was first introduced to it, but I was afraid to approach her, and so I just said, "Well, I'm not going to do it."
Wait, why was you afraid?
I don't know. I guess it was me looking at. I was looking at her countenance, appearance, and I said, "Oh, she looked classy. I don't know if I'm ready to step in that level."
She might have been upgraded.
Yeah. So I kind of like didn't do it at first, and then I got the courage to do it, and she responded, and we kind of talked from there, and we kind of like we hit it. When we talked, it was like, and I don't know if she noticed, but I believe I told her this. What got me was her voice, her calmness, was what won me. She had the calmness. It was just like I was talking to a person I had known all my life, and I didn't know him Adam or Eve, but that's the kind of bond we had, and it was just we talked, and I got a good vibe with that, and I let my heart do this.
Okay, all right.
Now you want my version?
Well, yeah, is it different? It wasn't that. I mean, yeah, give us your version.
So I saw this picture of this guy, and he was good looking, but tall. I like tall guys, and he's tall, but none of his pictures, he wasn't smiling in not one of his pictures. No one could know what was up with this dude. Why
But
was
you
he so
always
serious?
smile, Ernest.
I know, that's the funny thing. But he reached out to me, and I reached out back, and went back and forth a little bit. And so he asked me, was it okay if he called me? So I gave him my number, and he called me, and he just talked and talked and talked. The whole first conversation, I was getting my nails done, and he just talked talked and talked and talked, but he was really friendly and cheerful. So it was so different than the pictures where he looked so serious. So he actually asked me out on a date the first day. The first day we started chatting.
No time, huh? He wasn't wasting no time.
Yeah. So we met up at a restaurant and
Alcohol.
yeah, we met up at
Oh.
and
That's
so
fine.
that magical moment when you first see each other, he was standing inside when I went in, and when I saw him, I knew that was him. And I was like, oh.
You knew that was him, or you knew that was him?
No, I just knew that was him.
Okay.
It was after the conversation that I knew that was him. But I knew it was him because he was standing there smiling.
You know, giddy inside.
I got a little nervous, but yeah, so I said, oh,
No, you said what you said. You look better in person than you do on your pictures.
Because you can stop with smiling for
yeah, I
one.
was smiling for a change.
I mean,
I was smiling
maybe
at
since I met you.
but I was smiling in some pictures. I was just at that time.
You're trying to be cool.
I was trying to be cool.
cool.
And so I felt like if you smile on a picture, you was a wimp. So I said, nah, I'm just
Really?
be cool. I don't know. That's what I felt. So some of my pictures I was trying to be serious and have maybe
Well, yeah.
real deal.
I'm just right, man. Here we are, what? Almost 2 years later?
Well, it's actually 4 years from when we
From when you met. Okay. Awesome. So, where were you when you realized you were in love?
We was at the boardwalk in Charlotte.
Oh.
We had just had an argument on the way there.
Argument made you feel like
yes.
you was in
Because usually when I get into an argument with somebody, it's like, it's either make or break.
Okay.
So we was arguing. I believe I was parking. I didn't know where I was going, and she was trying to tell me where we were supposed to be going, and I didn't want to hear that because I want to know. I know where I'm going. I've been at the boardwalk, and she told me, "No, you're going the wrong way. You got to." I was like, "No." So when we got there, we sit in the car, and I'm still mad. She's mad. So we finally get out the car. We walk to the boardwalk, and I spot one of my cousins that I hadn't seen in a while. We just spoke and chatted. And it was just, we sat there for a while, and we sit on the backside of where they walk in the water and we feed the ducks and stuff like that. And I just had a calmness, because I had, at that time in my life, I was in a bad place. I didn't want to have to do that with one more relationship. And in that moment, I knew that I was in love. It was just, she didn't get too emotional. She just kind of like, she let me vent a little bit. And I guess after I vented out and she was still there, I said, she ain't going nowhere.
Oh, you let her have it, huh? She let you have it, you let her have it.
I think it was more, I was more angry because I felt like, I'm the man, woman can tell me, I know drove around, I know where I'm going.
Mm.
And I guess that pride that most of men carry,
yeah.
we don't want that to be
We
challenged.
all know pride comes
before
before
the struggle.
Right.
All these people before fall.
Yeah.
And that was what I was dealing with, my pride. At that time, I couldn't put that aside. But by her having that calm, like I said, that calmness, it kind of let me see that, you're wrong. And, I don't think I apologized right then. I think I did apologize later on, that I was wrong.
All right. What about you, Regina? Where were you when you first realized?
Where was I?
You were in love.
I believe we were at my apartment, and we were just sitting there talking and watching TV and listening to music, and we both like music, and we listened to some old school, and then we started dancing. He's goofy, and I'm goofy, and I guess he was just letting his hair down and being himself, and he has a really awesome heart, and I was able to see God in him. And that's what I really fell in love with, is a heart after God, God's own heart, deep inside. So when he puts there on all the walls and everything, you can see just who God created him to be. And that's what I fell in love with.
Okay, all right. You had to let them walls stay down, sir.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And sometimes they try to sneak back.
Yeah.
And I think I got the right to.
Learn how to karate kick.
Yeah, karate kick or give me a hammer and chisel.
So what is your couple song?
That's good. I like, she like Frankie Beverly.
That's not my couple song.
But no, I'm just saying that's his song. She do like particular.
Which one? What's your favorite?
Before I Let Go.
Yeah, that's it. That's the main one.
I don't think I really have a favorite song per se that I can really say. I like music, rap, R&B, gospel.
But it's got to be one song or two songs that when you hear it, it's like that just reminds me of my baby.
Now,
It takes you to that place.
I can't remember the song, but it's the song by her and the guy that we played at the wedding.
Yeah.
I can't think of it right now. Yeah, but I can't think of it. It's the song. The Reason Why I Love You. This is
Oh, yeah.
The Reason
This
Why
Is Why I Love
This
You.
Is Why I Love You.
Oh, this is why.
That's not her though, but I remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was another way
Great
to
song.
say it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mine is, can you focus on me? That's my song.
Mine is I can make you lift phone. I'm just joking. Okay. So, you guys are both, this is not your first marriage, correct? So, what number is this for you?
Two.
This is
This
number
third.
This is number 3. And for you?
Third.
It's so you're both on number 3. Okay. So being that you both are remarried, what are you doing differently now that you didn't do in your other 2 marriages?
I'll let her go first.
Well, okay, so I have to say this first. And then I'll talk, but first, putting God first. And I know everybody says that, and but until you actually put God first, you don't realize that you may be putting your spouse in the wrong place. So if God has to be first, so that and your husband draws from God, and God shows him how to love his wife, and he shows me how to love him. So the days when I speak of a lot, the facts and the truth. The facts may be he's getting on my last nerve, but the truth is I love him with all my heart. So God helps me to stay focused on the truth. That even though we might not be vibing right this second, or we may have woke up on the wrong side of the bed, that the truth is I love him and I trust him with my life. And so without God, I can't stay on the truth. I venture off into other stuff, but he helps me stay focused on the truth. Now, outside of that,
Wait, before you go there, let me ask this question. You said that a lot of times we put our spouses in the wrong place. Tell us what you think some of the wrong places is that we put them in our life.
So we say things like, you complete me, but really, he doesn't complete me. God makes me complete so that I can be one with him. And so when you're looking for a person to be what God is supposed to be, then that person can't do it. It's not possible. Even the best of spouses or the best of people can't take place of God.
Right.
So when you put your husband or your spouse in that place where they have to satisfy you, they have to be on 24/7, well, they really can't do that. So you're setting yourself up from the very beginning because they're human.
Okay, that's very good. I just wanted to bring that point out because a lot of times we do think that our spouses are supposed to make us happy. They're supposed to be completing us, So, okay, so go ahead with what you were going to say after that as far as doing what you're doing differently.
So what I'm working, I'm not there yet, but what I'm trying to work on is to be a better listener.
Say it again.
To listen, to be a better listener, to not always tell him what I think he should be saying or doing, but to hear what he's actually trying to tell me. And to be okay if his opinion is different than mine.
Yeah, that's not always easy.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's always been said that I'm a strong woman, and I've been in a lot of situations where I've had to be a strong woman. But now it's okay for me to be vulnerable and let him lead me. And so we talk about submission and all that. And it is needed. Both people can't be the leaders. Both people can't be the head, But when you trust in that God is putting into your spouse what is needed for him to guide you, then you can kind of, lay back a little bit. So I'm learning how to be led. That's what I'm doing different.
Okay. What about you, Byrds?
For me, taking accountability. Because sometimes one of my weak points is when something go wrong, I want to blame somebody else. And taking accountability for that. If I started it, then I have to make sure it comes back around to a place of good ground, fertile ground. For me, that ain't always been easy. She can tell you that. But I think what I'm doing now, more so than I did previously, was that I also listen, but I'm thinking before I say what I want to say. Because sometimes when you say certain things, you say it out of anger, or you say it out of bitterness, you say it out of your emotions. You say the wrong things, and you may not really feel it at that time. But after you look back, and if God is in your heart, He'll reveal it to you. And I think for me is getting my relationship back to that place where God speaks to me and say, don't go that route, don't do that, that's not right. And that's to me, that's the key. I could say previously I've done it, but it wasn't repetition, it wasn't consistent. And now I'm getting to a place where I can't, like she said, I can't do this. And when I realized that this is not, I know I have to take accountability for what I say, but I can't take the place of God. I have to allow God to speak to me and let me know the things that's wrong. And when I do stuff wrong, you come back and apologize to me. And I think that's a good place to be in.
And it's okay as a man to apologize.
Right.
A lot of men don't feel that I'm a man, I ain't apologizing, so.
It go back to pride. And one thing God dealt with Adam in the garden, it was pride. It was his pride because he knew what God had told him, but yet still he let the family go in that direction.
So instead of him
saying, oh God, I'm sorry.
Right.
I messed up. I don't know the plan of God, not like that, but I'm just saying I messed up. It may be some of the stuff that happened. I don't know, but I'm just saying maybe when we get to that point, we can acknowledge that. Because if he's a loving father, we'll love him like we love our kids. That's all we really want. When they mess up, they say, I'm sorry. And that settles most of it.
So I want to go back to
the inner.
Oh yeah, it's coming out. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned this word earlier, submission, and we know that there has been a lot of talk in social media about, women being submissive and what's submission. So what does submission look like in your marriage? Or do you, you mentioned it, so obviously you think it's important, but what does it look like in your marriage?
Well, I'm still working on it. But, and I say this a lot, when we are being stubborn, both of us are being stubborn, and he said, you just don't listen to me, and I'll be like, well, if you lead me somewhere, then I'll follow, So it's a two-part two-part thing.
Yes.
It's not just the woman
That's the thing.
submits, because I'm not gonna follow you off the cliff just because you said let's jump, you know. But when you reach the point in building the foundation of your relationship where you trust where he is leading, or the attention that he has for your family, then it's easier to submit. And submission to me is not always doing everything he says, but it's being there for him and realizing that he is the head. And so, it's a two-part thing. You can't submit without a head. The head has to be in place, and then you're able to submit. And I think a lot of times, women, and I'm going to say black women, we've been in positions where we've had to take the headship for the family or for whatever reason. And so when you've done that for so long, it's hard to step back and let somebody else take the headship. Right. So submission to me is not being lesser. It's just knowing that I have someone.
Say that again.
It's
not being less.
No, it's not being
Right.
less. It's allowing someone else to lead.
Exactly.
So that is how God ordained it. And until we do it the way it was ordained, that's where the difficulties come in. Where, like, a lot of us women, we're really, really smart. You know, we got a lot of things going on in our lives. We're aggressive, we're assertive, and we might be somebody who's not as assertive. So we want to take charge. But you have to roll that back and allow God to bring forth what he put in that man, so that he can lead you in the direction that God intends for your marriage to go.
So let me ask you, you've both been married before, right? And we always think, the vows say what God has put together. Do you believe that even though you stand and you take the vows, do you believe that it is possible for two people to just put themselves together? And is that is that a lie?
Is this the vow lie?
Like, if you stand before God and you say, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Well, you don't say that, but that's what they typically say in the wedding, right? And you take the vow for better, for worse, and all of this. But it ended up in divorce, right? Is it possible, because, the Bible speaks of being equally yoked and, being joined together by God. Is it possible that people just put themselves together and you still take the vow?
Yes, but I look at everything as, I look at things like this. Like she said, you have to take it for what it is. They're all, growing up, you date people. And you grow up with a high school crush. Some things work, some things don't work. I think Tyler Perry said this. Sometimes we get it confused. There's some people that comes in our lives for a certain amount of season. And there come people that come in our lives to deal or put this in place. And there's some people that come in your life for a lifetime. And I think recognizing that, because sometimes we might not be in a spiritual place of understanding that we make mistakes.
But is that a spiritual place that you need to be in to understand that, or is it just a level of maturity?
A level of maturity.
Okay.
Knowing that, okay, I can't just...
Like, you don't have to be, fire baptized and Holy Ghost filled to know that a person maybe don't need to be your root. They're just a branch at the time, right? So it's just a matter of, like you said.
It's kind of hard. I know what you're saying, but you gotta, I think because of the humanality, who we are, human beings, we make mistakes.
Right.
And if we didn't, we shouldn't even be here. We make mistakes. And it's not a mistake that God cannot correct. I think that's sometimes where we as believers, we get to the place of, okay, that's what God said. That's what he meant. But he's more than that. He's a loving God. He oversees all of that. So what he really wants us to understand, I don't care how many mistakes you make. Can you love me enough in your mistakes to not even look at the mistakes, but get back to a place of loving me? Because once we get away from that, that's what messes up. We get a place of that first love. He talked about that, his first love. He is our first love. That's how we know how to love, because of what he put in us. And I think because of our human side, we get to a point, humanality, and when I say we leave that out of the equation because we figure, okay, I'm grown, I can do what I want to do.
You end up
Right,
the wrong person. Gotcha. Okay. So let's move on a little bit.
And I want to say this.
Yeah, sure.
You know, in some cultures, they have arranged marriages.
Right.
And from what I understand for us, the statistics in that, most of them marriages, it's just in the Western world where we have a lot of problems with our marriage. Because most cultures, when they growing up, parents know their children and they have a feeling for their child. And sometimes parents, your mom might say, well, I don't know about this one. It's because they're looking at you. They know you. They've seen you grow up. So they know what's in you if that parent is nurturing that child. So they have the feel for it. It might not always work, but in most cases, in them marriages, they work. You know, people live to grow to old.
Yeah, I know. I worked with a guy at Walmart who his parents were in arranged marriage, and his parents arranged his marriage, and he was happy, you know. So yeah, they were from Dubai actually. Yeah. So all right. Well, let's move to a different subject now. You know, you guys are married. You have two. I mean, how many children do you have?
I have 6 kids. I had 7 when I passed.
Oh, okay.
So my oldest daughter was 3, 4 years ago. 2017.
Oh wow, that's recent.
I lost her in a house fire.
Oh.
She actually died saving her younger sister.
Oh wow.
And that was tragic. I don't even know how I'm able to talk about it sometimes. I found myself, because I guess for me, I kept it bottled in for so long, and that's what one day she kept telling me, you need to release that. You need to, you know, and for so long I didn't want to release it. I wanted to hold on to that because part of me still didn't believe she was.
So you guys weren't married yet, but you were in your relationship,
right.
And so she played a heavy part in you getting through that. Well, that's good, because a lot of times when we experience tragedy in our lives, we don't always have, especially if we're not like in a marriage or something, we may not have a person, so it's good to know that that's what that plays. So that probably also
that was another
to the love level.
I think that's when his family knew.
Okay.
Because I didn't leave the side. And I took off from work, and I was with him because that's a tragic situation. And I think the family came to me and said that made them realize how much I cared for him.
Okay. So, and you have 2 boys, right?
2 boys
and a girl. Okay, so 3 and 6, that's 9, right? So how did you handle establishing a relationship with her children? How old are your children?
36, 22, and 19.
Okay, and how old are your children?
From 10, 11, 20, 23, 25, and 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you got a variety there. You stopped and we started and then stopped a little bit. So how was it? How did you establish a relationship, especially for you, with the smaller children? No, let's start with you, because you've got boys, right? And we know boys are a little protective of their mothers. So how was it for you coming in with these teenage boys?
For me, one thing that I did, I went in with the mindset of no. She talked to me about her kids. She talked to me about her son. She said, now my oldest son is very protective. And he can testify to this. I didn't come in trying to take over. I came in more submissive because she kept trying to, won't y'all hang together? Won't y'all do this together? And I said, the one thing that I kept in my mind, it'll work itself. I think sometimes we come in feeling that, I'm clean. And we come in and we can overstep our boundaries. And because this is already established, he was with his mom, he was with his mom, his dad. So I have to come in more as a friend, and build that relationship from that way. And I think that's where me and her sons kind of got to the point of where we let our head down. Because it was tense at first. I would see him sometimes, he might walk around like, but it was more, I didn't want to make him feel uncomfortable because that was his place, that was his mom, that was his brother. I just wanted to come in and be a friend. And I guess to me at that time, I just kept putting, because I had been in a relationship before, don't overstep your boundaries. Use wisdom.
There's definitely boundaries that you have to be.
Right. And a lot of times we don't
walk around on eggshells.
Right. And it kind of put me on easy street to where I could be myself and not be fake, but be myself around. And that's the only thing I wanted to do, just be myself, let them be themselves, and we just make this thing work.
So what about you? How did you handle I don't know. Do I want to ask this?
Yeah, you gotta go ahead and
Let me just begin to backtrack this a little bit. So I think another thing that really helped in him adapting to my kids was that my kids are very respectful, and we always have that talk that no matter who I'm involved with, I expect you to remember, how I, raised you and to be respectful. And if there's something that you don't like, you can always come to me and talk to me about it. But still, I still think I want you to be respectful. So, as the parent, as the biological parent, I kind of had to set the ground for him to be able to make it comfortable, to know that what my expectations of my children were. No matter where this relationship went, I still expect you guys to be, respectful. The way I've always, the way you guys have always been, and I know that it is a challenge. So we had to talk about their feelings about me not being with their father. There are some things we had to be open about first to open the door. You know what I mean? And so my oldest son actually came to me and said, "Okay, Mom, I'm ready for you to date now."
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, okay, I'm glad you are. I understand what he was saying. I felt like it was important to give them time to get ready, to be ready.
To accept it.
Yeah, not to set them up for failure, because they still had some emotions they were dealing with. So by him saying that, he was saying that he was ready for whatever came next. So I thought that was important.
So what about your kids? Now, how did you adjust to his kids? What happened?
I'm still a work in progress.
So it's a work in progress. Listen, I understand because I went through on both sides. When I married, me and my husband got married. I had my 2 daughters, he had his daughter, so there was, So I want to do something different here, if you don't mind. We actually have your son here with us today. So I want to ask Blake to come on set, if you will, and let me ask you just a couple of questions about how you felt being in the blended family, a child of a blended family. Thanks guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed our show. Until next time, darlings, remember you'll always be able to survive the matters of your marriage as long as you remember your marriage matters. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, please send an email to the link below. And as always, like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you next time, darling.